Joining us now from the 19th Congressional District, the great state of Texas, Representative Jodey Arrington is on the line. Hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing great. Greetings from West Texas and your nation's capital that's surrounded by razor wire fencing because Nancy Pelosi thinks fencing's immoral unless it's affecting her safety and life.
Is that not the craziest thing? So the Washington is completely locked down, but we've pulled the goalie at the border. How does that make sense?
Only in Pelosi's world, and I guess now in Biden's world, could you put restrictions on the American people, mandates because of COVID, and then have a free-for-all at the border, letting thousands of people pour into our country illegally without any vetting, any testing. It's madness. And of course, the fencing around the Capitol is just a prop in Pelosi's theater, and it's costing $500 million to date to the taxpayers. So it's madness. The only thing worse is the radical policies that she's trying to pass, and in fact has passed out of the House, like the COVID bailout, like this takeover of policing, federal takeover of elections. It just never seems to stop.
No, it's bad. And I appreciate you taking the time to speak out on it, because what a lot of people don't get is I understand that, you know, the relief bill polled pretty well because people are getting a check from the government. But what they don't understand is 91% of this bill isn't going towards public health, and it will ultimately do more damage than good in the long run if we just keep wastefully spending the way we are. Are you optimistic on any level that we can get this thing stopped in the Senate, or do you think the horse has left the barn?
I think whatever they do to sort of ratchet it back, it's going to be so beyond a responsible piece of legislation, not only in the spending, Jimmy, and you're right. I mean, it's over $1 trillion to unrelated non-COVID items that were wish list for Democrats that they stuffed in this turkey, like bailing out union pensions. They tried to get a federal mandate for wages. I think that's going to be kicked out. But it's still going to have policies that will set us back and actually prohibit or inhibit our recovery, like paying people more to be on unemployment than to go back to work, and bailing out schools and creating a moral hazard with schools and cities by bailing them out when they did the wrong thing by locking their doors or locking down their communities. Now the taxpayers are paying for it, gives them no incentive to actually do the right and responsible thing.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. If you're just joining us, Representative Jodey Arrington on the line from the 19th Congressional District of Texas. Hey, I have to ask you this because we always have this conversation about West Texas when someone's on the line from your state. Being as close to Amarillo as you are, have you ever eaten a Big Texan?
You know, my dad was born and raised in Amarillo, and I still have family there, and I've never eaten at the Big Texan. I guess I'm going to have to turn in my Texan card after this interview now, but I'm being honest.
This is a scandal. This is move over, Cuomo. We got a big scandal here. This is a big deal. The calls are coming in. This is not good.
Hey, my phones are lighting up now, Jimmy. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
I hope they don't consolidate my district into my neighboring district, which has Amarillo, because I'll be run right out of West Texas. I better start looking for a place in East Texas after this interview.
Listen, man, I do hope you'll be safe. I think you're going to make it through okay. The promise you actually need to make me is not that you'll even eat a Big Texan. It's that you'll make sure we're living in a world 20 years from now where the Big Texan isn't synthetic beef.
Over my dead body and the dead bodies of my farmers and ranchers. Listen, one of the things that I think is lost on a lot of folks that don't live in rural America, that this is the breadbasket and energy basin. Our nation's blessed with food security and energy security and energy independence, and it's a huge deal, not just for our economy, but for national security. Look what happened with China and drugs and other important products that were critical to our country. We have this independence because of hardworking ag producers and energy producers, and I really am proud to represent them. And I tell you, if there's any one group or sector of our economy under attack, it's them, because of the Green New disaster and the government takeover of ag and energy and our natural resources in the name of, the end of the world as we know it in 10 years because of carbon.
Yeah, it's insane. And I don't feel like we're having an honest conversation about this, and we aren't having it on it, to be perfectly honest with you. And I feel like the way forward in this country is we somehow have to get the conversation back to substance, and we're really not there right now. It's more, name calling and ridiculousness, even at the border. Let me ask you about that really quick, is, Texas being where you are, okay? What they're doing at the border right now is not prioritizing Americans on any level. Would you agree?
Without a doubt, that's the bottom line. They are not and I've said exactly those words. The message to the American people is you're not the priority. In fact, the immigrants who go through the process and respect our laws and sovereignty by the millions and wait for years, they're not a priority. And the message is also loud and clear to folks who would cross illegally and be aided and abetted by the drug cartels. We're open for business. And not only will you not be held accountable, we'll reward you. That's what these policies are doing. They're rewarding them with a pathway to citizenship for people who've broken the law.
Which is crazy. And then we're hearing things that, these migrant children are being prioritized for education at a time when a lot of, American kids can't get an education. And I don't know how long they're going to be able to get away with this for, but the media has run cover for them pretty aggressively up until now. But I think, the reality of governance is that they're running into a lot of walls. And I'm not talking about the one Trump built, but, very much the ideological ones they're building for themselves. Do you see a future where, knowing what we know about the border, knowing what we know about the lockdowns, do you see a future where their people, their voters, could actually turn on this Democratic Party, or are we so far gone politically that it's just too important to embrace your own side?
Jimmy, that's a great question, and I want your listeners to hear this. It's hard to hear it because of the noise and the hangover, if you will, from the presidential election. A lot of focus on that, a lot of disappointment around that. But the House of Representatives, for the first time in a quarter of a century, held every Republican incumbent and flipped 15 Democrat seats to Republican, now giving Republicans a 5-seat margin from taking the gavel from Pelosi. Why did that happen? Because it happened from sea to shining sea. It happened all across the country, obviously at different levels, but for the U.S. House, I think it's because the Democrats have allowed the tail to wag the dog. Their far left has co-opted the party, and the American people are rejecting their radical socialist policies. And the Hispanic community in the Valley of Texas, where most of these counties are like 90% Hispanic, we won some counties, we had huge gains because folks that have come from Central and South America and even Mexico, they recognize the destructive forces behind socialist authoritarian regimes. They wanted a country that they were safe in their neighborhoods, that they were free to pursue their dreams and this land of opportunities. And the contrast is so stark. I think, Jimmy, we're winning hearts and minds of folks that I think were pretty much aligned with the values before, but they're running to a party that they believe will continue to make this country great, not just for them, but for their next generation family members.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. And I will tell you what, if you guys get back the House, I have faith. If you guys get back the House, Fox Across America, we will take you out for a big Texan on us. You don't even have to finish it. It'll be paid for either way. How about that?
I don't know what's worse, just saying I could eat one of those steaks anytime, any place, and not doing it, or actually taking you up on this and falling short from eating that steak and not measuring up to the to the larger than life Texan.
Well, don't worry about it because my staff will definitely finish the steak, so no one will know it's still there.
Hey, you're on, Jimmy, and thanks for letting me visit with you and your listeners.
Done deal. I appreciate you. Representative Jodey Arrington, be well. We'll do it again soon, my man.
God bless.
There he goes, the great Jodey Arrington.